Ms. Fumiha shared that some Singaporeans have questioned the need to raise revenues to meet the expenditures I mentioned, pointing at surpluses seen in this term of government. But our healthcare spending needs are not one-off needs. They are recurrent needs, meaning that these needs will be there year after year. In fact, growing year after year. So we need to fund them using recurrent revenues, not one-off surpluses seen in this term of government, which arose from unexpected rally in global financial markets and the unexpected buoyancy in the property market. We cannot hope to keep on being so pleasantly surprised. Things can very quickly swing in the opposite direction, as we have seen from the COVID-19 outbreak. The outbreak reminds us why we need to plan ahead to raise revenues. We must ensure that we have enough resources to meet our people's needs, driven by structural factors. Otherwise, we'll find ourselves short and have to raise taxes or cut spending in difficult times, precisely when businesses and people need a boost. Planning ahead entails being honest with ourselves and with citizens, and having the discipline to raise revenues in a timely manner. Yet, among those who agree in principle on the need to raise taxes, some have asked, why GST? As I've explained before, a broad-based tax like GST is an appropriate and responsible way to pay for major societal needs like healthcare spending. Such spending benefits all Singaporeans, and so it is fair for everyone to bear some part of the cost. This is about all of us taking shared responsibility to pay for our needs and our society's needs, and sharing in the effort to provide for them. It is at the same time a Singapore-style GST that comes with offsets to ensure that those with lower incomes pay much less than those who are well off. In fact, at the individual level, many Singaporeans are willing to chip in to meet these needs. In my conversation with my constituents, I've asked if they will be willing to contribute just 20 cents more out of $10 that they spend a day, if this will help to ensure that their healthcare needs and those of their parents were adequately taken care of. Many were willing to accept this small cost for the peace of mind. The compact does not change when we project it at the national, project it to the national level. The compact does not change when we project it to the national level. This is ultimately about us collectively chipping in to look after the healthcare needs of our families. Each generation must pay for its own spending. There have been questions over the logic of raising GST and providing a $6 billion assurance package for GST, and whether we can just delay or not even increase GST rate at all. Now, delaying the GST increase is not the same as raising the GST and providing offsets. This is because of the design of our system and the resulting incidence of the GST burden. Today, we flow part of the GST revenue back in the form of a GST voucher that gives more to those who need it most, particularly the lower income and retiree households. This is a permanent part of our system and will be enhanced when the GST hike takes place. The GST voucher reduces the net GST borne by lower and middle income households. Net GST is the amount of GST borne by each household after accounting for the GST voucher they receive. With the GST voucher, the bottom 40% of resident households are estimated to account for less than 10% of the net GST borne by all households and individuals. On the other hand, a significant part of the net GST is borne by foreigners and higher income households. Mr. Liang Yinghua asked, what proportion of the GST is borne by this group? Foreigners residing in Singapore, tourists, and the top 20% of resident households are estimated to account for over 60% of the net GST borne by all households and individuals. This is after taking into account GST refunded under the Tourist Refund Scheme for goods bought here for consumption abroad. This is partly because foreigners do not benefit from the GST voucher and offsets, which are available only to Singaporean households. When we eventually increase the GST rates to 9%, foreigners pay the higher rates immediately. In contrast, Singaporeans receive offsets to cushion the impact through both the permanent GST voucher and the assurance package. And as I said, for households, it's equivalent to not having the GST increase for 5 years, and for some, even 10 years. So all in, the GST increase, implemented together with the assurance package, will achieve different objectives. Most importantly, we delay the impacts of the increase on most Singaporeans by 5 years or more, and even longer for the lower income. We can start collecting revenue from foreigners residing in Singapore and tourists, and our businesses make the changes to their IT system only once.